There's a folding chair in every hospital room. Mine was green vinyl, cracked down the middle, and for 3 weeks I didn't know it was there. Then one afternoon I came back to myself before my body did. Eyes shut, mouth still, but awake. And I heard my own daughter tell a doctor that if my heart stopped again, he should let it stay stopped. I want to tell you I screamed inside. I didn't. I just listened. And what I heard next changed the rest of my life. Welcome to Dad's Pure Revenge. If you've ever found out the hard way who actually loves you, stay with me. This one's mine. And it's true. Every minute of it. Hit that subscribe button and leave a comment when something in this hits close to home, because I have a feeling some of you have sat in a room like that one. Let me tell you how I got there. My name is Grant Holloway. I'm 63 years old, and for 38 of those years I ran Holloway Plumbing out of a garage on the west side of Columbus, Ohio. I wasn't rich. I want to be honest about that up front, because money matters to this story in ways I didn't expect. I drove a 2014 Ram with 190,000 miles on it. But if your basement was filling with water at 2 in the morning, I was the man who showed up, and I showed up dependable for almost 4 decades. Here's the kind of father I tried to be. When my daughter Kelsey's furnace died in the middle of January, I think it was 2019, the winter it dropped to 9 below, I drove out to her place in Westerville at 11 at night and fixed it myself on the kitchen floor while she and the baby slept. Didn't charge her, obviously. When my son Brent lost his sales job, I covered his mortgage 3 months running, $1,200 a month, and I never once brought it up at Thanksgiving. I just paid it and let him keep his pride. I tell you that not to make myself sound like a saint. I wasn't. My flaw, and I've had a long time to think about this, was that I believed keeping the peace was the same thing as having peace. I thought if I just kept giving, kept smoothing things over, kept my mouth shut when something stung, that we'd all stay a family. I thought love was a thing you bought in installments. I was wrong about that, and the bill came due in a room at Riverside Methodist Hospital. The person who really deserved better, though, wasn't me. It was my late wife, Diane. She passed in 2021, breast cancer, and you need to understand who she was to understand why what happened cut so deep. When the kids were small and money was thin, Diane sold her grandmother's wedding ring, the one good thing she owned, to cover Brent's braces. Never told him. He went 30 years not knowing why Grandma's ring wasn't in the box when his grandmother died. Diane just smiled and said it must have gotten lost. That was her. She gave the best of herself away and never asked for the receipt. After she died, helping our kids became the whole point of me. It was how I stayed close to her, I think. I'd do for them what she would have done. Then came March 14th, a Thursday, around 4:50 in the afternoon. I was driving back from a job in Dublin, Route 33, and a box truck ran the light at Sawmill. I don't remember the impact. The next 9 days are just gone. I was told later my truck rolled, that a nurse driving home stopped and held my hand on the asphalt until the medics came, that my heart stopped twice in the ambulance. I went into a coma at Riverside Methodist, and the doctors, a Dr. Patel and a Dr. Reynolds, told my children honestly they didn't know which way it would go. So now my 3 grown kids, Kelsey, 38, Brent, 35, and Nolan, my youngest, 31, were standing in a hallway making decisions about a man who couldn't speak for himself. Here's the part I have to slow down for, because I've replayed it 1,000 times. It was a Tuesday afternoon, almost 3 weeks in. I know it was afternoon because I could feel a warm bar of sun across my left arm through the window. I came up out of the dark all at once, the way you surface from deep water, aware, hearing, thinking. But my eyelids wouldn't move, and my hands wouldn't answer. Locked in my own body, and the first clear voice I heard was Kelsey's. She was talking to Dr. Reynolds. Her voice was calm. That's what I keep coming back to. Calm. If his heart stops again, she said, we don't want him revived. He wouldn't want to live like this. I waited for someone to argue. Brent's voice came in, low and easy, like he was agreeing about where to get lunch. Yeah, we've talked about it. Dad wouldn't want machines. Now, I'd never said that to either of them. Not once. We'd never had that conversation. They were putting words in the mouth of a man lying 10 feet away, and the words were, let him go. The door didn't slam. Nobody raised their voice. That almost made it worse. And then it got worse, because they kept talking, and they stopped talking about my heart, and started talking about my house. The Maplewood Drive place is paid off, Kelsey said. Zillow's got it around 320. The business is the question, Brent said. If we sell the trucks and the client list, Hendricks down the road said he'd take the whole book. We'd have to move fast, though, before word gets out, Dads. He stopped and chose the word, before word gets out. I lay there, March sun on my arm, listening to my children divide me up, while my chest was still rising and falling. The savings. The truck. My dad's old tools that I'd promised Nolan since he was 12. They had it mapped out. 3 weeks I'd been under, and they'd already done the math. I have done a lot of hard jobs in my life. Lying still while that happened was the hardest. Every instinct said open your eyes, say something, let them see you heard. But some old plumber's caution in me said wait, stay under, see the whole pipe before you cut. So I kept my eyes shut, and I pretended I was still gone. Thank God I did, because of what came next. A third voice, quieter. My youngest, Nolan. Stop, just stop talking about the house. Silence for a second. Nolan, we're being realistic, Kelsey said. No, you're being vultures. He didn't shout it. He said it flat, like a fact about the weather. Dr. Patel said this morning there's still activity. He said people come back from this. You're not signing anything. You're not selling anything. We follow what the doctors actually say, not what's easy for the will. It's not about the will, Brent started. Then why do you know what Zillow says? Nobody answered him. That was the moment something in me went very still and very clear. I wasn't angry. I want you to understand that, because everyone expects the part where I rage. There was no rage. There was just a door closing somewhere deep inside me, soft and final. I was done. 2 of my children had already buried me in their heads and started spending the money. One of them was standing between me and the dark with nothing to gain. Let me sit with Nolan a minute, because he's the heart of this. I found out later, the nurses told me, a woman named Carol, who I'll thank till the day I really do go, that Nolan had been there every single day, not visiting, living there. He'd come straight from his shift at the warehouse in Grove City, still in his work boots, sit down in that cracked green chair, and read to me. Sports. He'd read me the entire Browns offseason out loud, every trade rumor, like I was going to wake up and need to be caught up. All right, Dad, he'd say every time he sat down. Let's see what they did to break our hearts today. Every day. Same line. Let's see what they did to break our hearts today. He didn't know I could hear him. He just refused to talk to me like I was already gone. Carol told me he slept in the family lounge more nights than not. Told me he was the one who asked the doctors the real questions. Not how long does he have, but what does he need to get better. While his brother and sister were checking real estate apps, Nolan was learning the words for the parts of my brain, asking about oxygen and swelling, and what the numbers on the monitor meant. The day I first squeezed a hand, it was his hand. 3 days after that afternoon I'm telling you about. He was mid-sentence, reading me something about the Guardians bullpen, and I got 2 fingers to move, and he dropped the phone and started yelling for Carol, and I heard him crying and laughing at the same time, saying, "He's in there. He's still in there. I told you." I came back slow after that, days of fog, a week before I could really talk. And here's something I have to admit, because I promised you the truth and not a hero story. When I first started to surface, part of me wanted to keep what I'd heard a secret forever. Bury it like Diane buried that ring. Keep the peace. Old habit. I almost did. I almost let Kelsey and Brent walk back in with flowers and pretend it never happened, because confrontation scared me more than betrayal did. That was the old Grant. The one who thought silence was the same as forgiveness. I'd like to remind you that you're watching Dad's Pure Revenge, and if you've ever swallowed something you should have said, just to keep a family dinner quiet, drop a comment and tell me. I read them. I see you. Now let me tell you what I did when I got my voice back. I didn't yell. I never yelled. The whole power of what came next was that I stayed exactly as calm as Kelsey had been in that hallway. The week I got home to the house on Maplewood Drive, I called a lawyer. Her name was Patricia Vaughn, an estate attorney downtown on Broad Street, and I'll never forget sitting across her desk in my good blue coat, the one Diane bought me, telling her in a steady voice everything I'd heard while I was supposed to be dead. She didn't gasp. Lawyers don't. She just slid a legal pad over and said, "Let's make sure you're never in that room without a voice again." So we did it the clean way. The only way I'd do it. My old will, like a lot of folks, split everything 3 ways and named Kelsey as the executor and Brent as my medical power of attorney. Backup decisions if I couldn't make my own. Think about that. The 2 people who told a doctor to let me die were the 2 people legally in charge of whether I lived. I'd handed them that years ago, back when I still believed keeping the peace was the same as having peace. We changed it. Every document, new will, new healthcare power of attorney, new living will, this time in my own words, signed and witnessed and notarized, that said in plain English, I want to be revived. I want every reasonable measure. Do not assume what I want. Ask the doctors, follow the medicine. And I made Nolan the one, medical power of attorney, executor, the one who decides, the one who carries out my wishes, the one who gets my father's tools that I'd promised him at 12, not because I was cutting the others out to punish them. I want to be clear, I didn't disinherit Kelsey and Brent. I'm not a cruel man, and Diane wouldn't have stood for cruelty. They're still in the will, but every ounce of trust, every decision that matters when I can't speak, that went to the son who stood in the doorway and called it what it was. Patricia asked if I wanted to tell them. I said not yet. I wanted it done first, locked, notarized, real. Because I knew once they found out, the calls would start. And they did. It took about 3 weeks for the family grapevine to carry it. My sister-in-law let something slip. Then the phone started. Day 1, 2 missed calls from Kelsey. Day 3-5. Day 5, Brent, texting. Dad, can we talk? Call me. Day 7. 11 missed calls between the 2 of them and a voicemail from Kelsey with that calm gone out of her voice, replaced by something tight. Dad, I don't know what Nolan told you, but it's not. We were under so much stress. You have to understand. They had no idea what I'd actually heard. They thought Nolan had tattled. They didn't know I'd been awake. They didn't know I'd heard the word Zillow come out of my daughter's mouth while the sun warmed my arm. That was still mine, and I was holding it. She would find out, but not yet. The confrontation, when it came, was at my own kitchen table. Sunday afternoon. I made coffee. I steeped a cup of Diane's chamomile out of habit and let it go cold in front of the empty chair where she used to sit. Kelsey and Brent came together. Nolan stood by the counter, arms crossed, not because I asked him to, but because he wasn't going to leave me alone in it. Kelsey started fast, talking about stress, about how scared they'd been, about how the doctors had made it sound hopeless. Brent nodded along. The words poured out, polished, rehearsed in the car, I'm sure. I let her finish. Then I set down my mug, and I said the thing quietly. I heard you. She blinked. What? That Tuesday, the afternoon Dr. Reynolds came in. I was awake, Kelsey. I couldn't move, but I was awake. I heard all of it. I kept my voice level, the same level she'd used on the doctor. I heard you say don't revive him. I heard Brent agree, and then I heard you talk about the house, 320 on Zillow, selling the business to Hendricks before word got out. The kitchen went so quiet I could hear the clock over the stove. Brent's face did something I'd never seen it do. Kelsey opened her mouth and nothing came. There was no defense for it, and they both knew there was no defense for it, because I hadn't heard it secondhand from anyone. I'd heard it with my own ears, lying there being measured for a coffin while my heart still beat. I'm not yelling, I said. I'm not yelling. You're my kids, and I'll always answer the phone. But I've changed my will and my medical papers. Nolan makes the decisions now if I can't. Nolan carries out my wishes. That's done, and it's not changing. Kelsey said, Dad, that's not fair. We were... And then she stopped, because even she couldn't finish a sentence about fairness in that room. That was the whole confrontation. No screaming, no thrown dishes. I just told the truth out loud. Finally, after a lifetime of swallowing it. And the truth did all the work. They left before the coffee was even cool. The door didn't slam that time either. Kelsey closed it soft behind her. And you know what? That soft click was the most honest sound either of them made all day. I'm not going to tell you we're estranged. We're not. They call. We do holidays. Carefully. I've forgiven them in the way you forgive weather. I've stopped expecting them to be something they're not. That's its own kind of peace. And it's a truer peace than the one I used to buy with my silence. Here's what I understand now that I didn't before. For 60 years, I thought love was about how much you give. I gave and thought that was the whole job. But that hallway taught me that love isn't measured by what people are willing to take from you. It's measured by what they're willing to do when there's nothing in it for them. When you can't say thank you, can't pay them back, can't even open your eyes. Nolan got nothing for those 3 weeks in the green chair. He didn't know I could hear him. He read me the Browns to a man he thought might never wake up, just so I wouldn't be alone in the dark. That's the whole thing. That's all love ever was. Today I'm retired. I sold the business on my own terms, to a young plumber named Deshaun who reminds me of myself at 30, and I gave him the client list as a gift, not a fire sale. I'm healthy. I take my coffee on the back porch on Maplewood Drive most mornings, and the air's cold and honest, and a dog barks twice down the block every day around 7, like it's keeping a schedule. Nolan comes by Sundays, still says it when he walks in. Let's see what they did to break our hearts today. And we watch the game, and my father's tools are in his garage now where they belong. I don't dwell on what I overheard. I really don't. I'm just grateful.